FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and guess what? Today is the last day of September 2019. First, to all of you out there, FSN members, concerned about my health, look, I'm not the most photogenic person. I'm fully aware of that. Hey, I used to be a really good-looking guy when I was younger, but now it's weird. I'm not as good-looking as I used to be. You can see the lines on the face. Age takes its toll, but I'm still in totally amazing physical condition. I never had big muscles, but hey, my only health issue is I really need to lose 8 pounds, and I'm in the process of doing it. When you get to be in your early 60s, metabolic syndrome can set in. And the best way, at least for me, to avoid the pitfalls of metabolic syndrome, and if you're not familiar with metabolic syndrome, that means your blood sugar goes up, your blood pressure goes up, and your cholesterol goes up. The best way to do that, to control it for most people, is through weight. So what is weight? Weight is a lifestyle choice. You decide what you put into your mouth. So me, all I need to do is reduce the carbs. I already lost 8 pounds. I'm going for another 8 pounds. When I first moved to Florida, I lost 25 pounds. Slowly gained back a little bit, but still nowhere near as fat as I was. And I was fat. And it's not a diet. You can't go on a diet and ever expect it to stay off. Lifestyle changes, reduction of carbs. I found that the vegan lifestyle, the vegetarian lifestyle just isn't right for me. So I gave up on that. But the fact is, reduction of carbohydrates, getting rid of junk food. Like, I seldom ever eat any potato chips, pretzels, desserts, a little bit of ice cream once in a while, maybe once or twice a month. But basically, getting rid of dessert really is it. So this isn't a health publication. I didn't mean to get into health issues, but a couple of you said, hey, are you feeling okay? You don't look so great. Hopefully now the lighting's better. I've got my porch up, my spotlight, my LCD spotlight, so I think it shows a little more color in my face. Hey, I'm always looking to improve my health, but for me, at this point, weight. Generally, my diet, I get all the minerals, vitamins that I need. I do take some supplements, fish oil in particular. I take carbon C60. Look that up. That's Bucky. Anyways, enough about my health. Just to let you guys know who are concerned, I appreciate your concern. And I get enough vitamin D. I take a supplement, and I get a lot of sun because I'm in Florida here, and the weather has been amazing lately. The humidity's gone. Anyway, enough of that. So let's talk about this repo madness that's taking place. For those of you not familiar with what a repo is, well, the repurchase agreement, and that is effectively a loan agreement. Short-term, generally lasting for 1 or 2 days, can last for up to a couple of years. And what it is a bank needs cash for whatever reason. They can go to Fed funds. They can go to the discount window, which is direct borrowing from the Federal Reserve, higher rates, and there's a stigma involved. So you don't want to go to the discount window. So Fed funds is other banks that loan banks. It's effectively interbank lending, uncollateralized, takes place every day of the week, and including weekends and nights. But repos are a cheaper way to borrow because they're secured. A bank will hold a treasury security or an agency debt, that could be Fannie or Freddie, and they will securitize it. They will borrow money from another bank, and in exchange, they will pledge this security, lower borrowing rates. And what happens is when banks lose faith in other banks, the Fed funds market can have problems, although the Federal Reserve will jump in there and pump out money if they need to. But the repo market is not supposed to do that. This market was developed in 1917 to help fund World War I, and during the course of that, it worked very effectively. It gave banks liquidity. It didn't work too good in the Great Depression, but they weren't really they didn't really want to rescue the Bank of the United States due to some anti-Semitism and other issues. So effectively what they did, they let that bank go bust. That led to a failure of confidence in the banking system and runs, and thousands of banks closed. Maybe you could make the argument that the main banks, the ones who are running the show, Chase Manhattan, Citibank, back then it was, there was a whole plethora of banks. Lehman Brothers was one of the primary ones. They weren't a bank, they were a securities dealer, but they were a primary securities dealer. They owned shares in the New York Federal Reserve Bank.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Osino Resources is a Ross Beatty-backed gold exploration company in mining-friendly Namibia. Osino's district-scale land package is situated near 2 producing gold mines, one of which Osino's management team previously developed and sold to B2 Gold. Osino's founders and management are experienced mining professionals who have already successfully developed and sold 2 companies in the past 7 years. Osino has an excellent shareholder base, with Ross Beatty owning 20%, insiders 5%, and Resource Capital Funds 8%. This is an exploration company with drills turning that you'll definitely want to pay attention to. Osino trades in New York under the ticker OSIIF and in Toronto under the ticker OSI. To learn more, go to osinoresources.com. That's osinoresources.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
So, anyways, that's just an aside. So the repo market isn't really there for these extreme cases where markets really stop functioning properly, where there's a loss of confidence. It's really there to keep confidence going. When those extraordinary events occur, then the Fed has to jump in like they did before. They will give these stopgap currency swaps, whatever they have to do to keep the system afloat, they'll do it, short of inflating it out of existence. They managed not to do that so far, but we'll see if they can get away with that in the long run. Now, we're going to have Martin Armstrong on to talk about the repo issue, but just today alone, overnight, the Fed pumped in $63.5 billion into the repo market. And understand that they will get that money back tomorrow or the day after with a minuscule amount of interest. Who knows, when they do these emergency liquidity injections, maybe they agree to forego interest on it to further strengthen the market. I rather doubt it, because that would undermine the other private parties that are issuing repos, because all the banks certainly would just go to the Fed for free money. So probably not the case. They probably are getting rates. So the bank, when 2 banks loan money, so one borrows and pledges the securities, the other is the lender. Okay, from the lender side, this is a reverse repo agreement, reverse repurchase agreement, because they're giving money, getting securities, and then it's going to be unwound in a day or two. So MFS Global, that was Corzine's operation in New York. It melted down, I guess it was 2011, I think it was. And that put a dent in it, because they were all these repo agreements hypothecated. But what happens most of the time is that the borrowing bank has the security and they put it in their custody account. It's like a trust account. It's like an attorney escrow account. And it means that you're not supposed to dip into that account and sell that security again, because it's owned by somebody else. And this is largely a trust issue, because if the bank starts doing this, they're going to be shut down by the Fed, by the Treasury, by the FDIC very quickly if they're discovered. But there's so many trillions of dollars. The repo market, $2.2 trillion per day. It's like as big as almost foreign exchange. And so MFS Global obviously didn't possess their own collateral, because they wouldn't have given it. They just would have declared bankruptcy. So if a bank either has that collateral and re-hypothecates it to others, hyper-hypothecates it. They're basically pulling a scam. It's illegal, and they'll go to jail for that, assuming you can find a prosecutor who will prosecute them, which is always a big if. But if that happens, they're in trouble. The other instance where this market can choke up is the bank that borrows. They're supposed to give the money back the next day, and they don't give it back, and they say, hey, security's yours. And these securities are like very short-term debt. They're not going to have much interest rate fluctuation. And they can be agencies like FHA, Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie Mae, if that's still around. All these federal agencies, as long as they're AAA rated, you can use their bonds as collateral. And so if the bank doesn't give the money back and take back their collateral, this could be a real problem. It could cause a loss of faith. So banks from all over the world are involved in these markets. You got to understand that. So if one of these banks, or a few of them, foreign banks, has defaulted, hasn't taken back their collateral and paid off the loan, or if their collateral got seized, in some instances, if they don't trust the bank, they will make them forcibly turn over the collateral, and then it got sold off. Well, it's not so much that the lender is fully secured. They're going to get their money back almost for sure, unless the collateral's been sold off to multiple parties, which is pretty illegal. But if this happens, then you could have a loss of faith in the market, where the banks say, well, we just don't want to lend here. The risk has gone up, and to get 2% interest, it's not worth it. So we're just not going to do it. So that's it for that. Hey, getting off to the impeachment thing, this is just like Trump 4D chess. This was all set up. They're smoking out the deep state operatives. And we find out that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi have got some splaining to do. They've got connections with Ukrainian arms dealers. This is a last-ditch effort, presumably, and I'm not convinced it's going to happen, but in accordance with Q's admonitions, Bill Barr, Attorney General, is going to release all of the documents. The Horowitz, Inspector General of the DOJ, is going to release his report any day now. I'll believe it when I see it, which is going to be pretty damning and is going to call for indictments. And supposedly Barr is going to do the indictments. Let's see if that really happens. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm a little skeptical about the whole thing, but the impeachment thing, it's just not going to go anywhere. Maybe the House will vote for impeachment articles, but the Senate will never accept them. They'll never take them on. I don't think there's going to be a trial. There's no point to do a trial. All the Senate has to do is entertain a motion to dismiss, and that's the end of it. And you can just say it's not worthy of being discussed, and do it on a voice vote, and boom, it's gone. I guess member can call for a roll call vote. So they'll have a roll call vote. Any Republican that votes in favor of impeachment is finished for life. They're done. Regardless how much the party hates Trump, and they do, the elites, the fact is 95% of the party supports Trump. So nothing's going to happen. One noteworthy thing I was talking about with the guys at Starbucks this morning, and that is that the rules for filing a whistleblower complaint in the Intelligence Department, to the Intelligence Department IG, Inspector General, up until 4 days before the complaint was filed, required there be firsthand knowledge. Hearsay, meaning hearing it from other parties, was not acceptable, not grounds for a complaint. It's just such a coincidence that it got changed right then and there. Really, Biden, his son, the Washington establishment, the elites are kleptocrats. They've been ripping off the country, ripping us off, ripping off taxpayers, destroying the country for, going back 60 plus years, almost 70 years, since the end of World War II. No sooner were we done with World War II, we're in the Korean War for no reason whatsoever. And then Vietnam, war after war after war. when it comes to the defense industry and American business, there is no more profitable undertaking than war. They will say, well, we never really want to be in a war, but trust me this, these companies, they get these contracts, they throw through these change orders. The government, the deep state just lets them do it. They steal billions and trillions of dollars from the taxpayer on these inflated defense contractors. Being a government contractor is often a license to steal, more so than any lawyer might ever have. Being a defense contractor, being a government contractor, if you're a big company, it is a license to steal. If you're a little company, it might be profitable till one day a big guy takes interest and wants you or wants to get rid of you, and then there'll be an investigation and you'll be tossed out of the club and you won't get paid and you'll be lucky to stay out of bankruptcy. So just remember, you're dealing with a kleptocracy. Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, the Bidens, the Obamas, the Clintons are all at the top of that food chain. There should be a food pyramid for the elite, for the government employees, and for the government contractors, because there is a food pyramid there, a food chain, just as much as the government food pyramid, where they tell you should have 200 grams of carbohydrates a day because 10 pieces of bread is just so good for you. Right. The food pyramid's a scam, and so is the food chain for defense contractors and government contractors. It's all about lining the pockets of politicians, plain and simple. So if you have any doubts, just understand Trump is going to make it through here with flying colors. They are going to blow themselves up, the Democrats and all the elitists. It's not just about Democrat versus Republican. It's about elitist versus the people. This is about so-called draining the swamp. The term is overused and is not exactly accurate. I would say it's more like pinpointing the cancer cells and hitting them with lasers, but trying not to kill the patient when you're doing it. By the way, article in, I don't remember, it was Business Insider, 40 states have got deficits in their pensions. Only 10 states were fully funded or better. The state with the largest surplus is Alaska because of the Alaskan Trust Fund, where a portion of all their resource payments go into that fund every year. They give Alaskans, just for the pleasure of living there, and you got to be crazy sometimes to live in Alaska in the middle of the winter, they give them a few $1,000s a year. They've been doing it since the North Slope was developed, since the pipeline was built, and now we're going to see ANWR. Hopefully that number will go up. Interestingly enough, Florida's deficit in their pension is $1.8 billion. I mean, that's almost the size of Florida's rainy day fund. There were about 10 states that had under $5 billion deficit. Really not too much.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.